Welcome to today's broadcast of North Idaho College Public Forum. The crew is comprised of NIC television students, and your moderator is North Idaho College political scientist Tony Stewart.
I welcome you to the second week of a 4-week series on celebrating public education in America. As you found out last week, if you were with us, we have chosen the Post Falls School District in Post Falls, Idaho, for this 4-week series, and we're talking with principals and faculty from the 5 schools in that district during this 4-week series. On the second program, I'm so pleased to have with us the principal and 3 of the faculty members from the Post Falls High School. At the high school, they are doing some very exciting things in addition to traditional education, and today it is our responsibility to enlighten you about those activities and how it is serving the student body of that school district. I welcome to the program these 4 guests. First to my left is Ken Goodwin, who is the principal of the Post Falls High School. And next to him are 3 faculty members. Lynn Schwindel is with us. Next to him is Dorothy Thompson, and then John Kraut is with us. We welcome all of you, and we're delighted that you could be with us. Ken, if you don't mind, I would start with you. I have been out to your school, and you were kind enough to brief me on what was going in the school. Would you first give us some statistics about your enrollment, student enrollment, and your staff, and traditionally compared with others, about what size your school is?
Well, our school is, we start school in the fall with about 850 students every year, grades 9 through 12. It's held pretty stable the last 4 years. Back in the 70s, as an example, we had quite a growth period there for 10 years. We started with 423 students in the high school, and 10 years later we had doubled to about 850. So we had a real growth during that period of time. I think the most students we have had at the high school was 912, which would have been 5 years ago. And since that time we've leveled off and been pretty stable. And we have about 55 teachers on our staff, and everything's going real well, and I would rather be no place else than Post Falls High School. I love it there.
One of the issues that we find around the country in public education oftentimes is the lack of funds for facilities, and in some school districts, particularly in inner cities, oftentimes they're very crowded, and too many students have to be put in the classroom, that you don't have quite the enrollment you used to, although overall the district is certainly growing. Mm-hmm. What is your condition? Are you crowded, or do you have adequate space?
Well, I think the high school, we could hold probably 950 without being a real strain. We have 2 gymnasiums, which is a great advantage to us, and some of our areas are perhaps not adequate for the programs that we would like to have. But overall, we have 2 empty classrooms in the high school right now that we are using for other things. So I think we could stand another 100 students. We're not crowded right now. I think our space is very adequate for our number of students we have now.
So it gives you some flexibility, which I'm sure you appreciate. Some
right.
Schools are thinking about next year or what they're going to do when they have an increase. When I came, you were introducing me to some of the programs when I came out to your high school. I'd like for you to tell us some of the things you're doing. I know that the faculty here are going to talk about some programs, so we'll wait for those individuals to deal with those. Can you give us an overview of some programs that enhance your traditional educational curriculum?
Well, traditional classes, we have about 88 classes in the different areas. We have some programs that we like to call exemplary programs that maybe some other schools don't have. Some things are a little above and beyond. I'll give you a few examples of those. We have a precision machining class, which is in cooperation with Lakeland School District, where our students and students from Lakeland come into the North Idaho College Vocational Center and learn how to be precision machinists. They actually work on the machines, and they gain some skills where they could conceivably and hopefully graduate from high school and have some kind of a vocation that they can go out and follow. So this is a new course this year, and it seems to be going very well. Another course that we're in cooperation with Lakeland is called the hospitality. We have students from Lakeland coming over, spending a 2-hour block of time in the morning, and they're learning all about the hospitality and the food and restaurant business. They go out actually and visit different restaurants and talk to chefs and prepare food themselves, and they have made the tour of all our cafeteria facilities, and that program is going very well at this time. We have a career occupations class. We have students that go in the mornings, and then in the afternoons they go out and are put on different jobs, so they get some training with different jobs, and that's also going very well. And before I forget, I must mention our BOMs, which is a group of mothers. They call themselves a bunch of moms. So the BOMs. They come in and help us with a little community relations. They're kind of a go-between the parents and the school. They come up with some ideas occasionally, and hopefully we get together and they work on some projects for us and lend a helping hand in different areas. We really appreciate them, and they're doing a great job for us. So that's another one that's working.
There's a movement in the country, I believe, to bring parents back into the school system and be more involved. I know with both parents working in the new age in which we live, that there was some loss of that, and so your school, it appears to me, is trying to encourage that process. Right.
It seems to be rather difficult to get parents in the school on a parent-teacher situation. The elementary schools, they have a fantastic turnout. The time to get to junior high, it's a little less. By the time you get to high school, it's virtually disappeared. So I think you need to work at other ways to get parents in and get them involved. And we've gone with this, and it seems to be working pretty well now.
I want you to tell our viewers about one very clever, I think it's clever, program that you had this year about, I believe if parents would come, or maybe it's even grandparents on a given day, then the student didn't have to come. Would you tell us that?
Right. Well, it was a kind of parent exchange program we had. We had a short day, half a day of school. Classes were about 25 minutes long, and if a student could talk their parent or grandparent into coming to school for that day and going through the 6 periods of classes, their regular classes, then the student would not have to come to school, and they would not be counted absent. And it was very interesting. I didn't know how it was going to be. I came in that morning when they were there, and there was 220 or 30 parents there, and it was just it was awesome. It really was. And they were a little nervous at first running around the classes, and of course some of them couldn't get their lockers open, and some of them were tardy, and the typical things. But by the end of the day, they really had a good time. The teachers, the kids had a great time. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it. And we did hand out a little questionnaire for them, and we got some very, very good positive reports back. We just wanted the parents to know what it's like to go to school and see what's happening in the classrooms rather than watching the basketball game or other things which are very important, but then there's also another side to education.
You probably create a better relationship at home after one day of that, more understanding. Let's move on to the faculty and talk with them. Lynn, I would like to start with you. I know that business education is your field, and you teach that, and before the program we were talking about some new developments and changes. Would you share with our viewers what's happened with the business education curriculum?
Well, first of all, the advent of the computers is probably the biggest change we've encountered in business education over the last few years, and we are implementing that into the program by teaching the applications of computers as far as word processing goes, and spreadsheets and database. And another major education change that's taking place as far as business is concerned is with the increased requirements that students are encountering for high school graduation and also college entrance. This average student is finding less and less time to take business courses as well as other electives. And so the change that's taking place is we're going to offer more one-semester courses and be getting away from the traditional vocational business educational concept where the student would enter, say, their freshman year, and they would take a 1 year of typing, and then they'd take another year of typing, and probably a year of accounting, and a year of office education or a co-op experience. Because they don't have time to do this anymore, we're going to be implementing one-semester courses and emphasizing basic skills, because that's still the most important aspect. And we're going to let the student be able to come in, take a semester that he wants to take, in that student in word processing or database applications or spreadsheets, for example. And then we're involved right now in a statewide curriculum development committee. We're going to try to come up with a new course that's going to offer a student some insight into what business would be like if they were to enter into the business field. Because right now it seems to be about 25 to 30% of all students who enter college are entering a business program.
It's very high. Yeah.
It's very high. And right now there are about 20 million office workers in the United States. It's the largest single occupational group, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that by 1995 that'll grow by another 2 million. And another area is marketing, and there's more and more demand for sales, marketing, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics expects that to grow by 1 million jobs by 1995. And also we are looking at combining business with marketing so that the students can have some involvement in that before they graduate from high school.
Of course, what you're talking about involves resources, including financial. And I know at your high school that you have invested financially. Could you just inform particularly the residents of your district what you have in equipment now that you have available to teach those skills like word processing?
Well, we have 14 new IBM compatible typewriters that are fully IBM compatible, computers, and we also have new electronic memory typewriters which are new. So we're very fortunate that we do have some new modern equipment.
Before I go into others, I know there's one thing that you're doing that's so helpful, not only to those that might be wishing to major in business education if they go on to college, but for all students that go on, there's a great need to write composition papers in English classes. The social sciences require a lot of papers. And when you give an individual the skill of word processing, it's this revolutionary in what they can do with papers as far as going back and making changes and corrections without starting over. I mean, just the time that's saved in this is very significant, isn't it, as they're doing work and research?
Oh, it's very significant in time saving. Today we learned a unit on search and replace, and I gave them an example of a paper. I said, now your English instructor hands back a paper and they say you're using, say the word "and" too many times in your paper, and that's a common criticism. So I showed them how to do a search and replace on that, and they thought, boy, what a time saver this is going to be.
Yeah.
So they're beginning to realize how useful they are and how time saving it is.
Without that skill, some people are going to be left behind in the future if they don't have that kind of training. If I may, I would like to go on to Dorothy and talk with her about some things she's doing. I guess, Dorothy, there's several things you were talking about that were so impressive that really is an advancement in education for your young people. But you talked with me about trying to combine continued traditional classroom study in the morning part of the day, and in the afternoon combining that with work experience. My question is just very vague in general, but would you enlighten all of us on how this program works and the purpose behind it?
Okay. Well, the research has shown for years that inherent in the disability of being mentally handicapped is that the teachers can work with a student and teach a skill, but that skill never leaves the classroom. So what education in special education has been saying recently is saying we need to teach the skill where it's going to be used. So our district last year supported a program where we would teach certain skills, preliminary skills in the classroom, and then take the student out to a situation in the community where they would actually use the skills. For instance, they all received a series of 3 $5 checks, and so we had to teach them how to endorse a check, which helped in the name writing programs a lot of them were doing. And we were just thrilled. A lot of them were getting 100% for a week, and we thought we were ready to go to the bank. And we went to the bank and they endorsed the checks on the front. And that's what I mean about the skills not transferring. What we found out is that we couldn't even teach the preliminary skill within the classroom. We had to go to the bank, have a check there, have them sign it there, and go through that process. The bank was very cooperative in letting us do this. And then the students used that money for actual purposes for themselves. They bought groceries at one of the local stores with one of the checks. Another check they used to go to a secondhand store, and they had to learn about their clothes sizes. And we were surprised. Some of our students who are high school students had never been clothes shopping before and had no idea. So it was a very good learning experience for them and the community, because they showed how capable they were within the community. And the last one we went to a restaurant and ordered food. And then we learned that there was a very big difference between a fast food type of restaurant and a sit-down type. So we had to teach both of those skills. So it's been real exciting for us to learn along with our students and to learn with the community.
I apologize that when I was introducing my question, I didn't make the point clear to our viewing audience that there's a very special program at the high school for handicapped young people, and you're speaking of that handicapped program. And I do want to congratulate the district and the principal and you for having that program, because a lot of schools don't deal with that at all. I have visited your facility in the handicapped program, and am I not correct that as you're dealing with this in the classroom and you're dealing with it out in the community and teaching those skills to those individuals, that we have been very, I guess I must say, not as sensitive or as involved in the past as we should be in dealing with this issue and the skills that can be learned. You're finding that in your program.
That's very true. We have, one of the things that we have found is how supportive the community is of our students. In fact, sometimes to the point of being too helpful. One of the things that we do in the community is to teach some of our students language skills within a certain situations, the kinds of questions they would need to ask, how to identify a safe person to ask a question to. And if, for instance, in a bank line where we want our students to verbalize, I would like $5 single please. Well, when the first person goes through the bank and struggles a bit, the bank teller knows that all of them will want the $5 and will hand the $5 before the student has a chance to ask for it. So it's a wonderful experience, and when we talk to them, then they also realize that yes, this is indeed a learning experience for the students, and that there's a difference in helping and being too helpful in a learning situation.
Something else that you're doing in your program, and I see this in a different program at the Post Falls Junior High School, and that is peers working with peers. And on our first program, they talked about their entire school and working with crisis intervention and so forth. And I think it's very intelligent that peers are involved. I understand that with your handicap program at the high school, the other students that are going to the high school, some of them are invited to come in and help you in the program. Would you identify that process and how that's working?
Yes, in the past we've had anywhere between 6 and 22 regular students who have come in through various periods of the day to be what we call teaching assistants. And they work one-on-one with our students. And a lot of them come in very timid. They're not sure what to expect. But the amazing fact is that they become our best PR people for our program. They understand that our students can learn. They understand that our students are students and not just handicapped. And they teach them a lot of social skills that our students would not see except being around regular ed students. And they're wonderful students. They have increased over the years because they go and they tell their friends, and their friends say, hey, I would like to do that too. And they work very hard in our classroom, and they are the best advocates for our students that we have within the school.
Now, this statement of mine comes from ignorance because I've not been involved, but my first reaction is it possible that when a peer is working, or someone the same, fairly close same age group, that they have a way of magically communicating even in a different way than maybe the instructors or someone of an older age?
Very often that's true. It's very true. Plus, they become so sensitized to the different learning styles of the students that very often they'll come to me and say, did you know that so-and-so is doing this? Maybe we could do this. And they become involved with the educational program of those students. It's exciting.
And I have another reaction. I think there must be another side benefit to all of this. Those students who are willing to volunteer to be aides and help, aren't you teaching them at a fairly young age to become socially active and involved in their community and the needs, even when they leave high school? That so many times young people aren't introduced to assisting in this way until later in life.
That's true, and I guess in high school it's very often to accept differences, and if anything, our students go out, our regular students have worked with our handicapped students go out and know that differences are just fine and they're just differences, and I think they become more sensitized to individuals throughout their lives than they had been before.
I perceive that's one of the purposes of education. Obviously teaching in the lower grades, reading and writing and on through the process, learning computers, all that's very valuable, but there's something called learning to interrelate with other humans and serve society, and I congratulate you.
Thank you.
I would like to talk with John about your special music program at the high school. And John, I know that you're in one particular area of that, but you're here representing the faculty and all the music. Can we start with you identifying what all you include for the students in your music program?
At the Post Falls High School, we have 5 performing groups. We have a jazz ensemble that meets during the 0 period class at 7 o'clock in the morning. We have a concert band that meets first period, a symphonic band that meets second period, a chorale choir of about 70 voices that meets during fourth period, and a select choir named Troubadours that does all sorts of types of music: jazz, swing choir, classical, contemporary music, and that's a select group of 12 girls that meets during fifth period.
In all these programs, that's a lot of variety.
And plus we have the pep band too that meets at 6 o'clock in the morning, so they can get their rehearsals in to play for the various teams.
Yes. How many total students do you have that are participating in the music program?
Well, I myself, I teach about 335 students each day, each week, because I teach the 6th grade choir up through the high school. And so I have about 175 6th graders I see Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I have about 72 junior high students, and in the high school program with my 2 choirs combined, I have about 90 students. So I see quite a few students.
You're reaching a lot of students.
Yes.
I'm going to editorialize here at this moment before I ask you another question, but one thing that I'm seeing throughout these programs with Post Falls School District is that you're just reaching out and meeting so many diverse interests of those students. Some are in athletics, some in music, some in certain vocational programs, handicap. You're recognizing that people have diverse interests and needs, and that's coming through very clearly. Another thing that we're finding from these programs in music is certainly one of those is, along with your commitment to teaching the skills, the achievement level is very high. Some very good things are happening to some of your students. And John, I want to give you this opportunity to talk about that, and particularly one student that recently has had Roy Graham, I believe, a special honor.
Roy Graham tried out for the All-American McDonald's Band. And this is a band that accepts 2 students from every state in the United States, plus Puerto Rico, I believe. And it's a band that does some special performances. And I just went to New York City and performed in the Thanksgiving Day Parade. And Roy Graham was accepted on the saxophone. So he represented our school and our school district as one of the 2 students in the state of Idaho selected as part of that band. I'm real proud of him. He did an outstanding job.
You should be. That must also create great incentive among the other students.
Oh, yeah. It's exciting to have an honor like that bestowed upon our school district. It really is.
Well, congratulations.
I know the band director is pleased.
Yes, I'm sure he is. In addition to all these hours of practice and learning the skill and advancing, it's important in music, like many other things, such as the live theater, that those students get to show their ability before the community. Can you give me some idea that throughout the year of the kind of performances you have?
The vocal music department, well, so far this year we were invited to the Whitworth Choral Festival in October, and we were one of 7 choirs selected to participate in that festival at Whitworth, and we met the clinicianer Weston Noble from Iowa, just a fantastic choral director, and the kids really gained a lot from that experience. And then we did a pop concert, which is a concert of all contemporary and secular music that the kids can do, like Whitney Houston stuff, and just things that are on the radio that they like. And that concert is mostly put on for the student body. Even though we perform it at night, I invite the students to come out and watch us perform the music that they enjoy listening to. And then we'll perform a Christmas concert, and then in the spring we go to the solo and ensemble contest, and then we go to the large group contest, choral contest. My small choir will possibly go to the Moscow Jazz Festival, and then at the end of the year we'll do another pop show. So we probably do 7 or 8 performances within the school. Then of course this is our busy season, being around Christmas time. A lot of individual clubs and organizations are asking us to perform at various banquets and things like this, so it gets to be real hectic.
You have to make some choices.
Oh yes.
Are you involved in commencement with the music?
Yes, and at graduation the choir usually sings.
Yes. Well, I think that message is really important, to see that all the work they do results in enjoyment for many other people and a lot of pride in the whole process. Ken, we're just about out of time, but one thing we have not talked about, we've talked about a lot of important things. We can't talk about everything, but can you give us just a minute to deal with the athletic program? What are the kind of sports that are available in the competitive arena for your students?
Well, when we gained 900 students, we went up to A1 ranking, which we compete with the larger schools in the state. And we are one of the smallest A1 schools in the state. We offer, in the fall, we have volleyball for the girls and football for the boys, of course. And then in the winter, we have girls and boys basketball. We have wrestling. In the spring, we have track for boys and girls. We're working right now to put softball in for as another girls program, and I think that will be in this spring or possibly next year. And down the road, in a few years, hopefully we'll get in a couple of maybe lifetime sports. Golf would be an example. Some of the other larger schools around the area have these. We're kind of the size now where we don't want to dilute things too much, and we want to offer enough programs to let most of our kids participate, yet it's something we just have to build on rather gradually.
With that, I want to bring the program to conclusion, and I want to thank the faculty and the principal for being here. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you again for all those programs and how helpful that is. And also, I know from my visits that you're putting in extra hours beyond contractual agreements because of your commitment and love for education and your young people. And I want to say that publicly and congratulate you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you to be with us as we continue this series on public education. Now that we've been 2 weeks into this series, the next 2 weeks we're going to talk with faculty and principals of the primary grades. There's 3 of them. They're doing some really exciting things. For example, they have 2nd grade students even working on computers with reading skills and math. I think you'll find that very interesting, and I invite you to be with us for those programs. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
North Idaho College Public Forum can be seen at the same time each week over this station. This production was videotaped earlier by an NIC student crew for viewing at this more appropriate time.